Greetings, everyone, and good evening. Happy Monday night for some must-see TV here on Sea of Tranquility with the Hudson Valley Squares. I am your host, Pete Pardo. We've got a new member of the Squares on tonight. We got Lynne Versaci joining us at the bottom of the triangle, the top, wherever she winds up. So today is all about our favorite hard rock and heavy metal vocalists of all time. So we've got Ryan Skow, Lynne Versaci, Chris Allo, Steve Keeler, Nick Franco, and yours truly. So we're going to let our newbie go first with her first choice today. So her first pick. And so Lynne, why don't you get started? Tell us who your pick is and why you like this particular singer so much.
Well, it probably comes as no surprise because to everyone that knows me knows what a Queensryche fan I am. So I'm picking Jeff Tate as my number one, right? Jet City Woman's kind of my anthem. It's my song. That's not why I'm picking him though, right? Like Queen of the Reich, when you first heard that song, I don't know about you, the hairs on my body stood up, you know, that The Lady Wore Black, like I just fell in love from that point on. And I was just a Jeff Tate fan. That was it.
I had a feeling you did.
I know. I figured, I know anyone that knows me knew that he was going to be on my list of top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Good choice. All right, so we're going to go according to the way I'm looking at stuff. So we're going to go Ryan, then Chris, then Steve, then Nick, then myself.
All right, I'll get this out of the way first. An obvious choice. This might be on everybody's list. We'll find out. This guy, Ronnie motherfucking James Dio.
Woo!
I never heard of him. Is he any good?
He could sing the phone book and it would be amazing. Like, that's just how good he is. I don't know what else to say about him. This is not my favorite album that he sings on, but it's his first solo album, so I pull it out of the pile. Holy Diver, and of course his vocals on it are phenomenal. So that's my first choice, Holy Diver, with Ronnie James.
I don't know where Mr. Allo's go. Oh, he's got props. All right.
I didn't think of it, but I'm like, wait, I thought I had a Sabbath record in here, but hell, I guess not. But yeah, I'll get it out of the way. Ronnie James Dio, he's a top 5er. I could definitely say the world is a shittier place without Ronnie James Dio in it. So yeah, that's my pick for sure.
Cool.
In fact, I thought about this the other day. I would argue that the greatest single run in the history of this genre of heavy metal is Ronnie James Dio. From the 3 Rainbow records to the 2 Sabbath records to the first 2 Dio records. That's 7 fucking amazing records. Name me another single performance artist in metal that has a run that can top that.
I won't argue it.
Yeah, I'm not arguing there.
That's about
Right?
10 years. That's about 10 years too, right? Close to it.
Yeah, maybe.
8, 9 years.
Yeah, not even 10 years.
Yeah, oh shit, that's a good amount of time.
Maybe.
I mean, if it wasn't on it today, they put out 2 records in 10 years. But yeah, I mean, that's an amazing run in 3 different bands. So, yeah.
Cool.
That's
Amen.
that's
Steve,
it.
what do you got, Steve?
I'm next. All right, rock and roll. So I've been trying to do this list for a week, and I just started doing it about 2 hours ago, and I was grumbling with Pete. It's like, do I have to do it? And I don't know. So anyhow,
You know what? It's just as much work for me to
About
manage Steve
intensity.
Keeler every week as it is to put my own list together.
Oh yeah, I'm not motivated to do this. I want to just eat soup and watch TV and pet the dog. But
Soup.
Taste the soup.
I'm old now, officially old, and locked in the house too much.
Yeah, but your teeth still work.
Anyhow, my list today, it's all about intensity, being on stage, and like a singer that's going to blow your mind when you go to see them, and you just want to listen to their music for the next 2 days. Probably everybody on my list is on here. I did not include any classic rock greats. I can't, in my brain, just not grasp mixing the 2 together and comparing them, like Morrison and Freddie Mercury and Gillan and Jagger and Daltrey and Geddy Lee and even Ozzy and Ian Gillan. I didn't include them on this list at all. So I'm trying to do more metal. And I'm going to really upset a lot of people today because I did not include a lot of people like that I got to respect as King Diamond, Bobby Blitz, Tom Araya. Didn't include Dio, didn't include Tate, which I should have. Even like Chuck Billy and Jonas Rensky from Catatonia, Michael from Opeth. I love all those guys. And But my number 5 is going to blow your mind because it's the heaviest. I bet you this is the heaviest number 5 on anyone's list. Maybe not with Skow and Nick in the room, but I'm going with Attila, Caesar.
Ooh,
Wow.
Vocalist of Mayhem.
Wow.
okay.
Okay.
Ballsy pick. I like it.
Like everything that he's done from his side projects from the beginning with like, not the very beginning, but Tormentor, his side project with Epica. And he has one of the most intense stage performances of anyone.
Certainly the
He
most
goes out and he
inhuman
can hit
voice.
all these different octaves and these voices and everything. It's definitely not for everyone, but Attila's my top 5. I'm trying to change it up.
I didn't expect that.
I was going to go abstract because I can say Dio, Halford, Dickinson, and the whole, that's what everybody's going to do. And I wanted to just kind of some things that, I mean, these bands aren't new to the next couple I'm doing. They're all been around for 25 years. So.
Right.
But they're new, like the newer edge of it,
He's certainly the most inhuman vocalist. Like, yeah, he's
Chance. And then Skow likes it. He likes that choice.
Don't steal my pick, Steve.
I'll try to pick another one. Probably the guy from Destroyer 666 is going to be on.
All right, Nick, what do you
All
got?
right, cool.
my turn.
Yes.
So I'm going to go probably a little bit, maybe not the first couple vocalists people will think of, but I'm going to go with a Canadian vocalist by the name of Devin Townsend. As my first pick. Yeah.
Wow.
Devin Townsend, first of all, when he was like a young man, like 18, 19, Steve Vai hired him. Steve Vai could have probably had anybody, but he wanted this kid from Vancouver to do his vocals on that album. And then Devin got into Strappy Young Lad, which was mostly a very loud, abrasive metal band. But within that, and their second album, City, he started to show that he could sing anything. He could do the most furious, high-pitched screaming vocals. He could sound really like he's like a crooner, and he could do everything you want in between. His harsh vocals are like nothing else. And if you look at his performance on an album called Ocean Machine, it's one of the most, I mean, hair standing up, like just fucking amazing performance. And he has kicked it up through the years. I would put Devin Townsend's vocal abilities up against almost anybody else. He's a fantastic frontman. Look up anything he does, a lot of his solo albums, his vocal range. The guy is amazing. So I pick Devin Townsend.
Good choice. Good choice.
I like that. You were following my thing. I thought it was just going to be cookie cutter on this, but me and you kind of broke the mold, I think, right now with those two picks, even though,
His vocals are amazing. I really agree.
not going to be in the top 5 in Metal Hammer or any of these other picks.
He's just unreal.
Well, it's what we like. It's what, it makes sense.
So, when we set out to do this show, originally we were only going to do 3. But then because one person like pleaded who will be nameless, we went up to 5. So I'm trying to figure out my number 4 and my number 5.
And
but pretty,
being that I'm a girl, it wasn't me. I'm just throwing that out there.
right. No,
Let's go.
definitely was not. It was one of the veterans on this panel. So, but
Yeah, I know.
finally, I
it is.
think figured it
I
out.
even grumbled about that about an hour ago. Oh, really? I already picked out 3, man.
So my number 5 is a guy who's almost 70 years old. He may even be 70 years old, and he sings better today than he has ever. And he puts guys half his age to fucking shame. I'm talking about Mr. Glenn Hughes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think here you go, Pete.
I mean, formerly of Trapeze and Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and Hughes Thrall, currently solo, Black Country Communion, Dead Daisies. Doesn't matter who he sings with or what he sings, the guy kills it, and he's a hero
Amazing.
of mine, and he's my number 5.
Nice.
Untouchable.
Back to
He's
Lynne.
amazing.
Great vocal.
First, when you said 70, I was across the board. But when you said still greater than as good as he ever was, then I'm like, yeah, it's Glenn Hughes.
Truly inhuman. Those Deep Purple shows he did, was that 2018?
Yeah.
Just unreal.
He
Unreal.
played with the chance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we were all the chance. There was us and like
Yeah.
30 people. I was shocked when I wrote
Yeah.
it.
Upstairs in the
Proud of
loft.
that
Right?
night.
It was in the loft. He was a nice guy too. Really nice guy.
I was in the chance, actually. It wasn't in the law.
Yeah, it wasn't a chance.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Downstairs.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
he
was-
just
I
came
got
up
there
to my
too
bar in
early
the loft
thinking it was
after
gonna
and had a
be
drink.
packed, you know?
There was more than 30 people there, Steve. It was
Yeah,
It
it was a
wasn't,
decent-
it wasn't as crowded as I expected. I
it
think-
wasn't like 400 people, but there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I expected it to be really crowded when I got there, but I mean, it was a lighter crowd.
Yeah.
All right, so Lynn's next. Lynn, depending on how
ahead.
much time you got, because Lynn's got to leave early today. So, Lynn, if you think you have enough time to go one more round, if not, let us know all of your picks, whatever you feel.
I don't know what time it is.
It's just turned 7:15.
Listen, I'm in a room with no clocks.
Oh,
Yeah, it's 7:15, so if you.
All
actually,
right, so
Lynn,
you know
it's quarter to 7. Lynn, you got plenty of time.
what? Yeah, sure. And then my 17-year-old daughter will kill me. She's bigger than I am, which is not saying much since I'm a midget. But so you know what? I'm gonna give you my top 2 pick, which was Ronnie James Dio. And again, I did go cookie cutter. I don't know if it's because I'm a female. I
That's
just
fine.
didn't dive. Right. I mean, there's a million artists I like, right? I mean, going from Tony Bennett to, I mean, from everyone, you know, like I like every genre of music, but Ronnie James Dio had to be on my list. The Gates of Babylon. Oh my God. Are you kidding me right now? Like I had to pick him for that song alone and everything else he's done that Chris stated before, you know?
That's a great song. The Gates of Babylon. I remember listening to that in the back seat of my parents' car. I was like, they were driving. We had an 8-track still. We went somewheres, and I said, "Oh, Rainbow, let's check that out." So I played it in the car, and I remember I'm thinking, what are my parents thinking of all this album I was listening to in the car?
That's a great
Played it
tune.
the whole way home. Though.
Great
You know,
tune.
8-track just kept going.
Yep.
Great tune. Love
Great
it.
choice. Like I said, I think most of us are going to have them on the list. But
Yeah.
where are we? Ryan, you next.
I just got to throw in a quick thing about Dio there. That band I mentioned last time, Megiddo, when we went to Canada, that little fest, Wings of Metal. After one of the nights, everybody was drinking. It was like 2 a.m. And the festival promoter was also the DJ. So she ended up playing the song Heaven and Hell. And there was a whole room of people. And it must have been over 100 people in there. Everybody just with their fist in the air, beer in the other hand, singing every single word in that song. It was like mesmerizing.
Amen.
That's one,
Goosebumps.
it was magic. Steve stole my second choice. It is Attila from Hungary. And I'm going to bring out my favorite album from him for the Tormentor.
I need that on vinyl. I don't have that on vinyl.
I flew to Norway to see them in 2018. They played Beyond the Gates in Bergen. Then I saw them in Montreal, and then I saw them in Baltimore for Maryland Death Fest. I was lucky to see them 3 times. And Attila is probably my favorite black metal vocalist. Like Steve said, his range is insane. He has like this, it's like inhuman, like the stuff he can do with his voice. You know,
Yeah.
it's very traditional in some songs. In other songs, it just sounds like an alien, like the stuff he pulls out of himself.
Yeah,
And he's amazing too. Great stage presence, charisma, very, very like foreboding and intense, but also a very nice guy if you ever actually met him. So that is my second choice.
Cool.
But most well known for Mayhem, but picking the Tormentor album here is I love this one. Got the flag.
You turned me
behind
on to them. You turned me on to that band years
Some
ago.
Right, I
album
think I did.
Some album cover.
Yeah, serving the little
Pretty evil.
cool. So that's my second choice.
Cool. All right, Mr. Allo, what do you got?
Oh yeah, I found that CD. This new bootleg Dio album, Dio's bootleg birthday bash. I got a couple weeks ago, which is pretty good. I knew there's something new in the box. And I found Steve's pick too. I got the last Mayhem record. I never. I'm going cookie cutter. I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna pick some weird fucking dude just to be cool to some dude on the internet. So I'm going Rob Halford. I'm going Rob Halford, the metal god. Arguably, one of the most influential metal vocalists of all time. I mean, I don't know what needs to be said, but he still got it. Maybe not as well as Glenn Hughes, but man, that last Priest album fucking killed. I know I've interviewed Rob Halford a ton of times, and as far as being a nice guy, he is just an unbelievably genuine, down-to-earth guy. And really, of all the dudes I've interviewed, he's one of the only legendary ones that's really a fucking metalhead. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you could talk with him and he's like, yeah, I love Behemoth and I love Emperor and this and that.
Yeah,
He's
nice.
the real fucking deal. He's the real deal. I mean, you know, I gotta forgive him for saying heavy metal is dead in like 1997. You know, he was going through some weird shit back then. But yeah, he's the real deal. So that's my pick, Rob Halford.
Good choice.
Like Gene Simmons, rock is dead.
What do you got, Steve?
What have I got for number 4? I'm way off the mark, and yes, Dio should be on my list, and so should and other bands like. But I'm going with another one that I'm passionate about, Michael Stein from Dark Tranquillity. I love his vocals. I love his stage presence, and like if you haven't listened to them before and you think it's just like death metal or something like that, because I know you have a lot of progressive viewers and whatnot. If you listen to like Her Silent Language and some of the stuff, like he's got the growls, but he's got some really great melodic stuff. And Michael's my pick for number 4 tonight.
Cool. Good singer. I think he's great.
One of my favorite bands. And I even got the shirt on tonight.
There you go.
Nice.
Nick, whichever way you are. Back to you.
So I'm going way off the radar,
Uh-oh.
and I'm picking Rob Halford.
Oh.
How
Yeah,
dare
I
you
mean,
be.
Chris said it, and not only is he still today just as phenomenal, but if you look at his solo stuff, like his vocal performance
Right.
on Resurrection,
Oh, Resurrection. Yeah.
How about
but
Fight?
that freaking song Resurrection, Crucible,
Holy shit.
yeah. And then, you know, for me, like my favorite vocal performance of his, if I had to pick one, is Jawbreaker. He
Good
goes all over the place in that song. I mean, it's so goddamn cool. Even when Rob does the lower vocals, like on Some Heads Are Gonna Roll, the same album, he's got such a badass voice when he's not even screaming, you know, he can do it all. And
Oh, boy.
I've come to really appreciate him, you know, as longer I've lived. And in Sweden, I saw him, you know, like everybody, he took the stage on a Harley amidst a bunch of flames, fire, and everything. And I mean, it almost doesn't get cooler than that. So he gets like frontman points, vocal ability points, and yeah, he's one of the nicest guys in the world. So Rob Halford.
Very cool. Very cool.
Man.
Yeah,
My number 4.
You know, how do you not have him in the top? I mean,
He's
Amazing.
fucking amazing.
I can
Cider,
go with the center.
Sinner, Victim of Changes, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this list got so hard, because like my
Oh,
top
yeah.
3 was always going to be my top 3. It was like number 4 and 5, which was ridiculous. And I have like, and I'm going to do some honorable mentions at the end just because it's my show and I can do whatever the hell I want. But
Yeah.
my number 4 is Freddie Mercury. I mean, one of the best frontmen ever in rock and roll. The guy could sing heavy metal, he could sing opera, he could sing pop music, he could do it all. And he is sadly missed. And he was absolutely one of the greats. And I still can listen to all those classic Queen albums, and it just like brings a tear to my eye that he was just so talented, and he's not here anymore. So that's my number 4. Back to Lynn. All right, Lynn. So it's up to you. If you got to run, give us all your picks.
I'm actually going to give you my last 3.
Okay.
Give us all your money.
But Halford was on my list, right? The first time I heard Victim of Changes, again, my hair stood up, and it was like, who the fuck was that? You know, excuse my French. Can I not curse on this show?
Yeah.
I don't even know. But yeah, Rob Halford's definitely on my list. I mean, his overall attitude, everything. I met him back in the day at the Chance. Like, he's a nice guy. He can scream. He's amazing. So Rob Halford. And of course, Bruce Dickinson's on mine. You know, you guys talk about doing these lists, and you're doing these. I did a cookie cutter, but I did it in 5 minutes. So for me being a chick, I didn't have to sit there for 3 hours. You said 5 people, I did it in 5 minutes, and that was it. These were on my list. You know, Hallowed Be Thy Name. I mean, he's just, I can't. Dickinson's just amazing. And I just saw him recently too, you know. And last but not least, certainly King Diamond, right? Which is where I saw Stephen, last. I mean, Abigail,
Amazing.
Welcome Home. I mean, the guy's ridiculous. I love King. He's definitely up there. Merciful Fate stuff. I mean, you
Oh.
can't really,
Yeah.
come to the Sabbath. You can't knock King Diamond. You just can't do it. But that being said, I know that's my 5, but since you're going to do an honorable mention and I'm a chick, I'm just going to add one chick singer, and that's Pat Benatar. Because Pat Benatar is freak that. Now she does opera, she does rock, she does jazz. That woman, like I said, talk about singing the phone book. She's amazing. So for my honorable mention, just because, like I said, I'm a chick and I gotta go, I'm gonna add Pat Benatar. I figured we needed some female stuff on here, and she's
Oh, yeah,
she's
I agree.
the queen. She's the queen in my book.
Absolutely.
We've done a top female rock singer for each one of us.
I
we
already
can do
have
one
mine
of those
picked.
one week.
I
We
already
can do
got
one of
mine.
those.
I came
Oh,
prepared.
Peter
Yeah,
might have. Yeah, Peter probably picked his.
I came prepared.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
Well, I didn't know. So we can always do a female rock one week too, like female metal episode would be great.
Oh, well, listen, I'm going to let you guys have your man half hour or whatever it is. And then
Yeah.
I hope that I'm invited back to talk more metal with you guys because
Every
quite
Monday,
frankly,
Lynn. Every Monday.
Yeah, every
well,
Monday.
I'm
we-
on because
we
I'm
do
telling
this.
you now, this COVID is driving me nuts. And I only talk work stuff, which is great. I love my job. And I talk to my kids. Otherwise, I'm literally stuck home and I don't talk metal to anybody. So I
Yeah.
need to start talking metal to somebody before I go crazy.
Nice.
So
Sounds
I
good.
thank you. I love you guys. I know all
Great
you
to
guys.
see you.
And
Thanks,
hopefully
Lynn.
I'll
See
get
you
to
next week, Lynn.
hopefully I'll get to see you soon.
Good to see
All
you,
right.
Lynn.
All right. See you soon. Love you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I think the
All
ratings
right.
are going to drop now, Pete.
Everybody's
This
clicking off.
beautiful face.
The ratings are going to drop.
Yeah, all of our viewers will be like,
Girls
oh,
off.
Lynn's
They'll
gone.
watch us.
That's it. We'll see you guys next week.
Fuck this.
That was
All
a
right,
great
Ryan,
guest.
what do you got next?
Great guest. Of course, having someone from the Chance on here is kind of cool too. So.
It is. It is.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm going with my favorite Irish vocalist, but I'm not going with his favorite band or his most famous band, and that guy is Alan Averill from Primordial. I don't know if he's vocals on Primordial. If you're not familiar with the band,
Excellent.
very like deep baritone, kind of clean vocals, very very fucking epic. It's kind of like probably my favorite like almost epic metal band in that sense. But that's not the album I picked. I picked this little side project from 11 years ago that I think I forced on Nick recently, kind of rudely. And this band's from Canada, and they're called Blood Revolt. And Blood Revolt was a little side project he did with 2 of the guys from the band Revenge from Canada, like a black death metal band. And this album, it's like you took Operation Mindcrime and pumped like 20 lines of coke into it. It's like a similar thing. Like this guy becomes disaffected, and he ends up kind of like spiraling out of control. And it follows like a similar story plot. It's a concept album. It follows a similar idea to Operation Mindcrime, but it just like cranked that album up like 10,000 fold. It's extreme metal with this guy like singing over the top, talking like psychotic rambling, and it shows like the versatility of his voice. He can pull off this entire range of like a guy descending into madness, losing his mind, great clean vocals, growls, everything's on this album. I thought it was like a really good example of why he's such a great vocalist. So it's still available if anybody. A lot of people didn't really like it because the mix of like that intense metal with like clean vocals kind of threw people off. But I think it's amazing. And
awesome.
Alan Averill from Primordial, he's also in a doom band called Dread Sovereign, which is kind of like Black Sabbath, Candlemass Doom. Also really good. He was in a band
Really good.
called Nick, you got to remind me. Twilight of the Gods was the band.
It was this project, Twilight of the Gods, which he did with like guy from Deerfing. I forget the other guys. Just a kind of a super group of underground metal guys.
That was like
Yeah.
just like
Yeah, I
epic,
saw that.
like late 80s Bathory, kind of like epic, like Man of War style, like classic metal. That was good. So he can do it all. He can sing everything. Another guy that could sing the fucking phone book. So that is my third choice is Alan from Ireland.
He's got such a unique voice too.
Absolutely. Great, clean vocals. Iconic.
That's a great pick. And Primordial, seen Primordial a bunch of times, seen Twilight of the Gods on one of the metal cruises. Primordial is one of those bands, like I just don't understand how they're not bigger.
I
Oh,
agree.
Like, I don't know if it's bad marketing or promotions, or the fact that they only come to the States like every 10 years or whatever. But man, like that band should be 10 times bigger.
Me and
I only got to see them once. I saw them once in Allentown, PA. I was down there for a pinball convention, and Crocodile Rock was the rock club down there. It's
That's a cool little place.
a club, and
Yeah, that's a good spot.
I went to Pagan Fest. I never heard of them before. They were freaking amazing. I mean,
Amazing,
that was like my introduction to like Corpaclani and them, and forget who else was on that one.
I know Nick and myself saw them at St. Vitus. I can't tell you what year it is, but we saw them.
2014.
I remember that show.
2013.
There was not a lot of people there, and Primordial played that show in St. Vitus, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. Like this intimate little show, and they put on like it was like crackling with energy. Like they were so good live, you know. 'Cause
Yeah,
they're
I
playing to
imagine
like
so.
it was like they're playing to Vakken, like 100,000 zillion people, you know, in this
Yeah.
little tiny club. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen him at Wacken and Grass Pop, and I think just once in the city on one of those Pagan Fest, whatever year that was.
That one I went to, probably. Yeah. That was the only one they were on.
In Gramercy Theater in Manhattan.
Yeah, that must have been it.
I saw them a couple times, MDF, that show you talked about. I saw them perform it in Vakken in 2008 it might have been 11:30 in the morning or 12 o'clock. And they brought it, even though everybody was hungover.
Oh, yeah.
They were hungover. They were sharing a bottle of Jack Daniels before they even began, but they
Nice.
amazing. Yeah.
All right, Chris, you're up.
All right, this is easy. Air raid siren, Bruce Dickinson. I don't know what more needs to be said. Guy can sing, he can fence, he can fly a goddamn plane. Besides the stuff with Maiden, his stuff with Samson is really good. And, I always say there's a lot of people that didn't really follow his solo career, but I would say Accident at Birth and Tyranny of Souls are just as good as any of the Maiden records. I mean, those two particular solo records are just unfucking believable.
That
And
was a wedding.
didn't get notoriety that they should have.
Absolutely.
So that's my pick.
Cool.
I got to meet Bruce in a bar back in the day. They were doing a record release party for, I think, a Tattooed Millionaire. And we got huddled to this bar. And I still remember, I can't think of the name of it now, but if I'm walking through the city, I'm like, oh, that's where I met Bruce Dickinson. It's over in the village. And it was weird. I mean, it was crowded, of course, but it was a very small place to do it. You might have been there, Chris.
Yeah, that one I don't remember though. I was gonna say the last time that I met him was what's that Maiden record that I fucking hate? The one with the mandibles.
Final Frontier.
Final Frontier. They flew us to interview the band to hear the record and opening night of the tour, and all the guys were cool. But I remember the night before the opening night of the tour, there was like a pre-show party, and all the Maiden guys were there. The Dickinson was there, but he was fucking hammered, like hammered. He had like a hat on sideways, and he was doing one of these. He was in a good mood, that's for sure. But all super nice guys.
Oh, too funny. All right, Steve, who's your next pick, Steve?
My next pick is someone I don't know. I don't. Nick's gonna be mad at me because he really doesn't like this guy. His name is Tommy Yostin. I hope I pronounced it correctly. He's from a band called Amorphous, and you can listen to him perform stuff like Amongst the Stars with a net, like Silver Bride, just to hear the quality of his voice. And he can do a death growl as good as anybody in death metal, just about. When he gets that growl, it goes from this real harmonic to just like a demon or like Godzilla just stepped in the room. And I picked Tommy for number 3, and decade. Listen to him perform some of the early stuff like Black Winter Day and stuff when he does that live, and the power he has in his voice. But yeah, he can tune it down to be like the most melodic guy, Like he could have done top 40 in the 70s. It got that kind of
He's
voice.
the best of both worlds.
You really can.
I love him so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Great singer and a huge Danzig fan.
Is he?
He is, yes. So is Fernando from Moonspell, I think.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which could be definitely on my list too. I love him also.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Guy sounds like Count Dracula singing to you directly. You should be the Hammer movie vampire if they
Right.
had a rock band, you know?
That's funny.
All right, Nick, back to you.
So everybody's picking my picks, but you know what? That's okay. I want to try to bring, point out other things that were said so we don't just repeat. But
Yes.
I guess I'll go for number 3. It's kind of hard because I love these 3 people so much, but we'll do Alan Averill because he's in there for me. There's days where he is just, his voice is just unequaled. And as Ryan said, he did some side projects, but he's best known for the Irish metal band Primordial. He's another one that can sound rough edged and screaming and make that great. But his clean vocal has just improved more and more and more over the years. And where it started to turn the corner, he said this, and if you follow their discography, was when he performed the song "The Coffin Ships," which anybody of Irish descent will know is about the potato famine and the resultant genocide of death that took place, and the mass migration of Irish immigrants to North America. And it's this 8.5-minute epic, like painful slog through their history, but he makes it so fucking heartfelt and so wonderful. And when he started to do vocals like that, it spread, as their discography went on. And I mean, this guy, and I don't know why they're not bigger, Chris. Maybe it's because they don't put out an album. They don't put out an album every 2 years. They definitely take their time.
Right.
But I cannot tell the listeners of the watchers of this channel enough that if you really like anything like from Candlemass and Sabbath to Manowar, definitely check out Primordial. Alan's vocal performances and his frontman, he puts everything into every show.
He's incredible on stage. So much energy.
Yep. So Alan Averill.
You know what? They're on the right record label, so maybe
They're
it's
on Metal Blade,
not their
yeah.
fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100% that this band is not more popular. Like, I mean,
Right.
maybe they're really big. Are they big in South America and Europe and stuff, guys? You would know better than me, like Ryan.
I mean, I don't know if they're much bigger than America. I don't know.
Oh, really? So, because you can have bands that draw 50 people here and go to South America and draw
Sure, yeah.
80,000 or the same thing in Europe or Japan. It's amazing that they're not. I thought maybe they just weren't big here in the United States, that they were big in like Europe and South America and Japan and stuff like that. That is a shame because they were one of the most talented bands out there.
You know what it is, Steve? They don't write singles. They wrote a ballad on their last album. The song "Stolen Years," one of the saddest, most amazing vocal performances you will ever freaking hear. That song has brought me to tears, and that's not a single, but that's like one of the shorter. They write like 8-9 minute, but you're into it the whole time. But it's probably more difficult to like market to the kids. They're definitely a more serious band.
I mean, you do have bands like Opeth that are very similar in having 8-9 songs that are huge.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how did Opeth get so big?
I mean, there's a lot. There are other bands in the metal genre that are like that,
But Opeth is like a musician's band. Am I right? Like a guitarist band.
You are right. You are correct about that.
Yeah.
It is.
Primordial is like a poet's band. I mean, Primordial is like a poet's band of an appreciator of literature and moods and just my God, I can't say enough good things about them.
Or is it just when it comes to music and especially heavier music is it the curse of the Irish once again? Because we could sit and we had the same conversation about Thin Lizzy, about Gary Moore, and the Rory Gallagher, and it goes on and on and on. Why is it that these harder, heavier Irish bands can't make it here in this country?
Yeah, great
true.
point.
Yep, Thin Lizzy could be one of the biggest bands on the planet. Everybody I know likes him, but everybody I know has pretty good taste.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But the mainstream knows one song. Hey, the boys are back in town. Yeah, right. That's
a good song. That's a good song.
It's a good song, but I mean, that's the only one I know. The only one PDH probably plays too, right?
Raven like Primordial.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's rated?
My dog went to bed, I guess. I can't bring her on. I heard you got in trouble for bringing dogs on the show. It's something with PETA or something.
You need a license for that, I hear.
All right. My number 3 pick, for anybody who knows me, my top three are going to be no surprise whatsoever. My number three pick to me has always been one of the coolest guys in hard rock for 40 plus years. He sang for Deep Purple. He's been fronting Whitesnake for a million years, Mr. David Coverdale. To me, he's just the coolest cat in the world. He always has been. And, you can say what you want about, he's slipped a bit vocally in recent years. I get it. But, man, Burn, Stormbringer, Come Taste the Band, Trouble, Slide It In,
Yes.
Come and Get It. I mean, the 1987 album, we can go on and on and on. He just oozes all there is to ooze about rock and roll, in my opinion. So he's still a great front man.
Great front man.
So that's my number three.
And the girls dig him.
Yeah, still to this day, right? Yep.
Still got it. Still got it.
And Glenn Hughes used to sing with him, remember?
Yeah.
Yep.
Remember that?
In the glory days, good old days.
That's right. All right, back to Ryan, I guess.
All right, so maybe this is an unorthodox choice, maybe not. We'll see. As far as technical ability to sing a million styles and sing opera and stuff, that's not this guy. But I love his vocals. He fits perfectly with the band. They had another singer for 2 albums, which I like, but for me, there's only one singer for this band. That man is Snake, and that album and the band is Voivod. So I got here. I love his vocals.
Choice.
I'm sure they're one of my favorite bands on the planet. I'm sure a lot of viewers are familiar with Voivod. Their first couple albums, War and Pain and Roar, are like this post-apocalyptic Mad Max nuclear wasteland thrash from underground, absolutely insane. And on this album, they turned into this sci-fi, crazy outer dimension, Twilight Zone thrash, and then they kind of turned into a prog metal band after that. And his voice was able to adjust all along. So I guess I'm kind of selling him short there. He sounded great on all the albums. They're from Montreal, so his native language was French, so he sings English on all the albums. But that adds levels of charm to it. I've always, even on the newest album they did, The Wake, he still sounds great. Awesome front man, one of the nicest guys in the world. Always is happy to be up on stage, puts a great performance on. Just to me, one of the ideal, iconic frontmen of any metal band. So I'm going with Snake for fucking Voivod on that.
I have to say that's a great choice, and it was way under and over my radar today. I didn't even think of it, but yeah, it's funny. I was in New York City last year for a show. I met Chris. I was at Amon Amarth at the Gates.
Oh yeah, I was there. Me and you were
We
there.
had tickets for that, and I was in Brooklyn checking out a new pinball machine at Sunshine Laundromat, and I'm walking around a corner, and guess who I see? It's Voivod walking around because they were playing Brooklyn Bazaar that night.
Yeah, wasn't that weird night where there was in New York City on the same night, there was 3 major metal shows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 actually, I think. Yeah. And Napalm Death, I think, was in town. Well, maybe they were with Voivod, but there was another show more more mainstream than metal, like Machine Head or somebody was in town. Who was that?
Voivod didn't even headline that show. They played next to last, but they were, that's.
And you were at that show? Who played on it other than Voivod?
You know what? I couldn't even tell you because my friend Craig and myself, we went just to see Voivod.
Okay, yeah.
Just personal for my taste. There was nobody else I cared about, so we saw Voivod. They kicked a million tons of ass. They were great, like they always do.
Sure.
I've seen them many, many times. And then
I'm just trying to remember who they played with that day, and it was one.
I thought it was Napalm Death and Municipal Waste. I could be wrong.
Napalm Death was there. Skow would have stayed, I think.
I would have watched Napalm Death. It wasn't Napalm Death, and it wasn't Municipal Waste.
Anyhow.
Was it Creator?
They played with Creator.
No, it wasn't Creator. Not a Brooklyn Bazaar.
They didn't play with Creator
City.
That was the PlayStation theater they played with.
That was at that one.
Anyhow.
All right, Chris,
Yeah.
back to you.
I love them.
All right, I got a girl, and she's awesome. And I discovered them the old-fashioned way. I was at the Grass Pop Metal meeting in Belgium in 2005. I was in the photo pit, and I was leaving, and some guy, other photographer's like, "Hey, where are you going?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm gonna go get a hot dog or something, or a beer. I don't know, whatever." And he's like, "You got to see the next band, man." I'm like, well, who are they? And he's like, this band Epica. I'm like, where are they from? He's like, from Holland, man, from like right next door, because Holland and Belgium are really close. So I stuck around and I was completely blown away. I was mesmerized. The female vocalist, Simone Simons, yeah, she's a fucking knockout, but she could have 3 eyeballs. I don't care. Her vocals are unbelievable. The band Epica, to me, it's the ultimate in light and heavy. Some people like them, some people don't. I don't give a fuck. I love them. And they got 7 full lengths, and I think they're an amazing band. And I really love their progression because, you know, they started out like the other bands like Nightwish and whatever, and they were more kind of folksy and fairy-ish. But over time, they just keep getting heavier and heavier. And I know in the States, they keep getting bigger and bigger. And I'm glad to see that. And that's my band. And she's probably the youngest singer on this list because she's 35. We all picked only 4. And, you know, all these guys in their 60s and 70s, but she's still young and got it. And that's my pick. And she's kind of like, you know, she's got that kind of classy, kind of elegant thing going on, but she's not afraid to get dirty and headbang and get sweaty. So she's awesome, and that's my pick.
I got to see that tour a few years ago. I've seen them a few times, and I was never really into them, and I don't listen to them a lot at home, but I really respect them, and they're very good. Yeah. I saw them at Webster Hall. You were probably there. It was like a big metal night. I think it was the beginning of fall where you used to get those run of shows. It was them. It was Flesh God Apocalypse with like this giant stage show I never seen them with that much stuff. And Arcona was there from Russia.
Who were really good, yeah.
I was great that night. And I was having I was pretty drunk, and I was having a conversation with one of the members of Arcona, and he was a Russian guy, and he couldn't speak any English, but we were like talking, and he would drink a beer every time we talked, and it was a good time. But I got a backstage pass and everything that night with Epica. I got some pictures and stuff with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're a killer band. Actually, I jotted down like, wow, I've seen them in a bunch of weird places. I've seen them in Holland, Belgium, a whole bunch of times in New York, Boston, Philly, and Baltimore. Yeah, I've seen them quite a few times.
Yeah, they always bring it live. I've seen them a bunch of times too. Yeah. And she's just mesmerizing because she can, you know, she can do the operatic thing. She could do the smoother pop thing. She can sing like straight rock. She's, you know, a gorgeous redhead in the band. I mean, you got Mark Jansen, guitars and growling vocals. And I love the kind of Beauty and the Beast thing that goes back and forth there. And the music is like
great dynamic
and complex and progressive. Yeah, really good band. Really good band.
Yeah, I dig that for sure. She had told me, I've interviewed her a bunch of times. I wish I had it. Before, you know, I used to write for More Sugar magazine before the collapse, and when they played in January, I interviewed her, and More Sugar put her on the cover, which was great. And I was looking around for it, but I don't know what the hell I did with it, but I got it somewhere. But yeah, just a killer band.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Steve, back to you.
I never too. I'm off the cookie cutter trail, and I'm glad other people pick some stuff. I was really thinking we were all have the same like 5 picks, you know. Just the staples like you'd read in the magazine. So I think it's been great. It's been an interesting show. So I'm going over Bruce Dickinson. I mean, I love Paul Di'Anno too. I love the material and I love the first 2 albums, but Dickinson, to me, is the guy that's kept it going, and it's still. I guess this isn't about whether you kept it going or not, but he's still got it on. And listen to Hallowed Be Thy Name, Children of the Dam, 22 Acacia Avenue. I mean, that I got to see them on the Number of the Beast tour, and I remember seeing them on Peace of Mind tour. And that was like when I said earlier tonight, like I want to talk about singers and bands that would just like the next day. I was in Lake George, and I was upstate New York with my wife and her sister at the time, and we went to the amusement park next day. Of course, I had to have my shirt on from last night, and you'd see Maiden fans at this amusement park. It was by the show, and everybody was just still buzzing from that. And you just wanted to listen to Iron Maiden all the way in the car every day and for days on end after seeing that. You know? And Dickinson, look at, like he said, he flies a plane still. Did you see the video? I mean, they're dropping a new album. You can buy it on rockfantasy.com if you guys want to, or reserve it or pick it up in the store. They're coming out with a live album from Mexico.
Yeah.
Bruce showed up on a video and he's got hair longer than mine now.
Yeah. About time.
Looks
Just playing
distinguished.
the iron.
COVID.
I know Stern was real happy and shared the video all around. They're networking too, and
Cool.
he was talking about how he likes playing, but and he switches to Rhyme of the Mariner. He goes, "You guys want us to play that, don't you?"
Nice.
Yeah, I saw that. It's cool.
So Bruce Dickinson's my number 2.
Cool. Can't argue that. All right, Nick, what do you got?
All right, so I'm going to contradict Steve and go with Bruce Dickinson. That was my number 2 also. And you had me thinking, Steve, when you were talking about, I was thinking of this earlier, like as great as Rob Halford has sounded on the last two or three Priest albums of the last, several years.
Oh yeah.
I feel, I could be wrong here, but I feel like when I was listening through them that Rob maybe keeps it a little more conservative on the studio stuff. And I know he can still bring it live. I feel like Bruce on the studio stuff is still trying to really take his voice out there. If you listen to their Iron Maiden's last album, Book of Souls, there's many moments on that album, especially in the epic Empire of the Clouds. But all throughout, he's really still bringing it. And the other thing about him is I can't think of anybody that's in his age group that really has that much energy on stage, like the jump
around like a maniac.
Yeah, the guy's in his early 60s, and I think he's 61 or 2 now, and that's not old, especially if you keep yourself in shape, which he has done. But man, running up and down the stage, jumping up and down, and hitting every note, and doing what he has to do. And again, can't say enough about the solo records. He hasn't been somebody who's needed Iron Maiden to be great. Accident of Birth, Chemical Wedding. We're talking top-notch performances, and he really can reach you with his emotion and his vocals. So Brucey Bruce, or what do they call him? Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce.
Samson,
Right.
yeah, Bruce, back in the day.
The Iron Maiden's gonna get you.
And Samson is excellent. He's excellent.
Oh yeah, great stuff.
I want to bring up something Steve mentioned before. So he was talking about, the whole kind of Paul Di'Anno and Bruce thing. I will say those first 2 Maiden albums are legendary. They're great. And Di'Anno sounded awesome on them. What has he done since that's worth anything?
100%. I thought the same exact thing. What has he done since 1981? I mean, he's done a bunch of.
Fights.
Yeah, but they all suck. They went
They all
nowhere.
sucked, right? Every one of them.
And that's another good point is when Bruce is saying, like, and again, those albums with Di'Anno have their place in my heart. They're amazing. But when you hear, like on this album, you hear Bruce do Phantom of the Opera. And when you hear Bruce do the unfortunate, the Blaze Bayley songs, like that, remember when Pete and I did our top Maiden songs, like Bruce makes Sign of the Cross, to me, one of the best Iron Maiden songs in
The
existence.
Klansman too. He hits the Klansman, fucking kills it.
That performance in the Klansman on Rock in Rio,
It's amazing.
I mean, come on, the hair
yeah.
on my arms stands up. I mean, yeah, so that's another point. True.
And I'll tell you one thing. He made me discover those records because when they came out, I totally wrote those records off. I didn't even listen to them. I listened to them once in the store, and I was just like, ah. It was like when Ripper was in Priest. I didn't gravitate towards that either.
Jugular rules. You shut up.
Yeah, Ripper Owens. He's in 73. Yeah. Sorry, Chris, if you're watching. Chris. I like Ripper. He's very talented. I wish he would stick to one project. I think.
Well, I mean, that's the deal with him, right? He's a great singer, but he, like Mr. Rallo says all the time, he has a cup of coffee with a different band every 6 months, and you never know what he's, he doesn't stay anywhere long enough. It's like, I mean,
I remember last year he released 2 albums on the same weekend. The one he did with our friend Chris Caffrey, and another one he did with somebody else.
It was three of them.
Oh, three. How do you promote one properly when you hand out 3 at the same day?
3 different bands at the same time, and 2 of them came out the same fucking day.
Could you imagine if Bruce Dickinson was putting out 3 albums on the same day?
It'd be unusual. It would be unusual.
I've said for a long time that I think that Ripper Owens, if he would stick to one thing for 5 years, he would be looked at as one of the preeminent singers that he actually is talent-wise.
Great.
He didn't do it. He's never done it. It's like, he was in Iced Earth. You blinked, he was gone. It's like he was in
For a dinner or 2, and then he left. And
yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. It's like the guy's got so much talent. It's like stick with something, man. It's like it's so frustrating. So anyway, my number 2, Mr. Ronnie James Dio. There's probably not a day that goes by since the day he left us that I don't think about him and miss him. And I can't tell you how many times I have like listened since he died, listened to like Stargazer or Heaven and Hell and shed all sorts of tears. And I just, I never had the chance to meet him or talk to him, unfortunately, but everybody who I either know who's met him and talked to him, or you read interviews with people who knew him well, say he was probably one of the nicest guys in music. And Chris, I mean, you hit the nail on the head earlier. That run of albums is almost
Ridiculous.
like untouchable, right?
Untouchable. I mean,
Yeah.
And
you know,
I don't, you know, he's at times he's been my favorite singer of all time. He's always been in my top 2, and I still love him to this day. And that voice was really still quite good up until right around when he died. And
Yeah.
there's guys on my list who I love to death, but you know, in the latter part of their career, obviously it's not quite the same. Dio for me was still killing it right up to the end.
He sounds great on the Heaven and Hell album. He does.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. So that's my number 2. And back down to Ryan.
All right, so I just, as you can see, I ran off for a second there. I'll throw this in as honorable mention real quick because I wanted to bring up somebody else, so we got some more better mix here. So favorite band of all time, Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson. But I wanted to switch it up. Another vocalist that I love, from a talent perspective, maybe he couldn't hit those high notes, low notes, but it didn't matter because he's so fucking iconic. And again, I miss him dearly. Listen all the time. And who could that be? This album just turned 40 years old yesterday. Mr. Lemmy fucking Kilmister, fucking Motorhead. I mean, what else do you need to say? That iconic, amazing, gravelly voice of his. You know, you hear a Motorhead song and immediately you're like, that's fucking Lemmy. Who else?
There's
could it
never been anyone like him, right?
Nope. Totally iconic. You know, just a, you know, I don't even really know what to say about him. You know, I cried like a baby when he died. I'll totally admit that. You know, Dio and Lemmy both. That was like, you know, losing a family member. It felt like, you know, just like a punch in the gut when you found out that he passed when he passed away. But
Yeah.
choice is fucking Lemmy.
He's one of the legends, one of the icons in our genre of the metal scene, and I mean, he even crossed over into the classic rock a little bit. And I mean, what can you say? I mean, people are gonna say, "What do you mean Lemmy's one of the best vocalists?" You immediately think of like Halford and Dio and people that's operating. But people don't think of
Not
stuff
about
like
technical ability.
Lemmy.
Yeah. Well,
Who your favorites is who your favorites are, not who's the best singer.
Heart and soul.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
And he was a great frontman too. Up on stage, he was very charismatic. You know.
Yeah.
I never met him personally, but by all accounts, like one of the nicest guys in the world. You know, so many cool stories about him. Just you could go on for days talking about Lemmy. So you know,
Yeah.
it can only be this guy.
Yeah, I met him.
You would only be metal if you did that. You'd only be metal.
On the rock and roll tour in 1988. Him and I was seeing Manowar and Motorhead at the Sundance in Long Island, and him and Filthy were at the bar. I was, I think, 16, but I had him sign my ticket. The two of them stunk of BO and booze. And but man, you know, Lemmy is. I was going to say, of everybody on the list, Lemmy's not the best looking fellow. But man, he had the most beautiful girls coming up to him all night.
Oh, yeah.
He just wanted to drink and play. There was some kind of electronic like poker or something.
The touch, yeah.
He didn't
The
get
magic
bothered
touch.
by any girl. He
Yeah.
just wanted to drink and play that game. And I remember Filthy had the devil lock point in his hair, and his hair kept getting in his drink, and he didn't care. He was all fucked up. But I remember, you know, meeting Motorhead at 16 was like, wow, this is awesome. And I was like, these guys are total characters.
Chris, I used to live at Sundance practically. I used to go to that place.
Oh my God.
I was living in Long Island like for 2 summers in a row, and I went there every
Wow.
weekend.
That was my favorite rock club. I mean, it took
it
me
was
like
the
9
best.
minutes to get to, but man, that was my favorite club.
We used to go there. We used to get there early, and we used to drink up a storm, and we would buy like cheap, like I mean, this was in the 80s, right? Coors
Right.
Light Silver Bullet cans, and we would drink all night. We would line our beers up all across the stage every
That's
single
awesome.
weekend, and they never cared, right? The place was a
Yeah.
mess.
Well, I was going to say, not that we're condoning underage drinking,
Right.
but in the 80s, you could get away with that. So
Yeah.
I'm sure, I remember I was 16 in 1987. You just walked up to the bar and bought a beer. They were like, no problem. Here you go.
I don't know how I got home half the time.
Oh, if
Place.
you,
Yeah.
I mean, you got home, you were living in Long Island. How did I get home? I'm in Middletown. That was like the worst ride home from a rock club that we, back in the 80s, it was more like, this was, how we got venues now. That was a rock club.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Too. And it was like a place where you could go almost every night of the week. It's like Rock 3 was up here. And they had that, and whoever played they'd have that following. It would just go every night, no matter who it was. And I went down there with Forbidden. And it was
Nice.
sad. I forget the bands now. Forgive me, but Forbidden were there. I think Testament were there.
Testament played there all the time, Steve. All the time.
I was with Kara Sprague.
Overkill played there. Anthrax played there all the time.
Oh yeah, I
Exodus
was there
played
with
all the time.
Kara Sprague, who worked for Metal Blade, and we were and because Forbidden was just in the store, we followed them out. The ride home was murder.
Yeah.
From
Oh,
there to Middletown. And especially, we probably did drink and drive then. At least we tried not to, but there was some alcohol involved.
And for those that don't remember, because I was just having this discussion the other day with a buddy of mine, for those that don't remember the rock scene, at least in New York, I don't want to talk about anywhere else, but New York rock scene in the 80s was awful because the doors for the club would open at 9 o'clock. The opening band would come on at 11, and the headliner would typically come on around 2:30, 2:45.
Yes.
So it was a
Rarely.
super late night.
Yeah, you were basically going home when the sun was coming up in the morning, or just
Oh, totally. I mean, I was
you were going out to breakfast as you're leaving the club, right?
totally. I was 90 minutes away from the Sundance, so when the show got out at 4 in the morning, I was home about 5:30, 5:45.
Oh yeah, you were coming back to Middletown when the sun was out if you drove back.
So-
And I mean, I worked at the Class, I worked at the Rock Palace, so I was part of that scene. Yes, back in those days, I'm talking, not even talking, I mean, that's the way it was in the 70s too. But in the
Gotcha.
80s, still that laid over. Like when we had a band play at the Class, I mean, happy hour was like 9 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And the first band would go on at like 10 o'clock, like a local. And it was the same kind of scene back then.
Yeah, I often say,
And
thank
you
God.
were young and you didn't go
Well,
to
that's the
sleep
thing.
in the morning anyhow.
That's why I often say, thank God they don't do that at clubs anymore because I'm too old to do that.
Oh yeah, I mean the Chance was famous for that back then too.
Yeah.
The Chance would get like four local bands to start the whole thing, and so that'd be the first 2-3 hours.
I mean, it used to be where you would prep at home at like 9 o'clock. You didn't go out. I mean, Chris, you still don't go out till the headliner.
True.
Like now the Chance wishing Chris was there to visit, and then like he walk in 5 minutes before the headliner.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going on, Steve?
I'm too old to sit around for 6 hours watching these kids.
All righty.
All right, where do we leave off? I think, Chris, it's up to you, right?
Me, all right. I'm sorry if we derailed there. But all right, my pick. There's not too many guys that I like to call a musical genius, but I would put this guy up there. He could do punk rock, goth rock, metal. He's written 2 classical albums. He plays bass guitar, electric guitar, vocals, drums, keyboard, piano. He's written songs for Roy Orbison and Johnny Cash. His
Oh, I
songs
know who it is now.
Roses. And my pick is Glenn Danzig, Lodi, New Jersey's own Glenn Danzig. I mean, I'm a huge fan of all his stuff. Misfits, Sam Hain, Danzig. I have the Sam Hain Danzig skull tattooed on my arm for like 30 years. I love the fucking guy. He can get weird. Thankfully, I interviewed him a bunch of times. He was always cool with me. They always say, don't meet your heroes, and that really hasn't been too much of a problem for me. But I remember being like, oh God, I'm gonna be crushed if he's an asshole. But he was really cool. But yeah, that's my pick. In fact, this is his newest record, which is kind of a shitter, but I did buy it from Rock Fantasy, and it's Danzig.
Thank you.
if you're going to buy anything, you should totally buy it from Rock Fantasy. I just, I'm not the, I like Elvis. I just think Glenn didn't pick my favorite Elvis songs. It's kind of a mellow record, but it's cool. But yeah, that's my pick, Glenn Danzig.
Cool.
Very nice.
Steve, what do you got?
Oh, Chris, you had the same tattoo as Morgan from Marduk.
Yes, yeah, he was. I think he as well, and he is a massive Danzig fan. He even covered the song Samhain on what was that side project he had?
Death Wolf.
Death Wolf, yep. And I remember when I saw Marduk open for Deicide in like 2000, they played the song Samhain. Nobody knew it but me and the band, but it was super cool.
My friend Faith was married to a guy in Death Wolf for a little while.
Oh, no kidding.
You guys know Faith, yeah. So you're ready for my number one. Before I say my number one, I forgot about a guy that I really got to give respect to that passed away a couple of years ago that no one's mentioned so far, and I don't. Maybe they won't tonight. Is Warrell Dane from Nevermore and Sanctuary, and he was such a talented performer.
Yep.
Talented artist. Other people I can do my honorable mention. I'm not a chick like Lynn, but I'm going to do it anyhow. Would be Brian Ross from Satan.
Oh, great singer.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Glenn Benton from Deicide for being a front man. He's like the death metal Lemmy. The guy stands up front and if he's mad about the sound, he starts yelling at people and saying he's going to beat people up. But and way up the charts from being death metal is Chino from the Deftones. I love all of them as frontmen, but I really wanted to throw Warrell Dane in there because Warrell needs respect. The poor guy passed on and had some great music with Nevermore and Sanctuary.
Yeah.
But number one is Rob
Oh,
Halford,
record was good too.
the metal god. I mean, have you ever listened to Victim of Changes?
Maybe once or twice.
I've heard the song.
I mean, Green Manalishi, even like the covers like Diamonds and Rust and stuff like that. He is just, I saw him for the first time on the Point of Entry tour. And that's another one. I just wanted to listen to that all the time. I wasn't listening to Point of Entry at the time. I was listening to Unleashed in the East. I remember listening to it all the way back from Allentown to Middletown. The next morning, Linda and I went to that. And it's Halford. I mean, one of the kings, and he's still kicking ass.
Yeah.
It was the last album, Firepower. I saw that at the arena in Newark where the Devils skate, Prudential. And they brought along Biff, another great front man we haven't mentioned, is from Saxon. And to see them, we were all up at Bethel Woods for like the metal show with Judas Priest and Deep Purple. So
Yep.
And Rob's still on top of the game. And Chris said he's a metalhead, so it makes it even cooler. He's not like Jeff Tate and listening to like something else and putting down metal. It means a lot, I think, to me.
Yeah.
And that's mine, number one.
Cool. All right, Nick.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, my number one, my favorite singer right now, for the past, it's probably materialized over the past 10 or 15 years, is the aforementioned Tommy Jutsen from Amorphis, from Helsinki, Finland. Tommy is, yes, the death vocals he's excellent at. He really pulls them from the bottom, and very good. But his clean singing is, I mean, I can't say enough things about it, especially some of Amorphis' more melodic songs off of like their last album of Queen of Time. You look at a bonus track like Brother and Sister, you look at the Golden Elk, these beautiful choruses, this fluid vocal. He needs to start getting like premier consideration as one of the finest vocalists alive today in metal. The guy can do it all. Amorphis released a semi-acoustic performance called An Evening at Huvula, I think was somewhere in Finland, and it's most of their songs rendered in a more just a little bit stripped down of the heavy guitars, and yet it works, and it works very well. And one of the reasons it works is because this man's voice is just heavenly. I mean, the guy's fucking amazing. And I highly recommend people check out Amorphis and Tommy Jutsen. And since Steve crammed in a bunch of honorable mentions, I'm going to cram in Ann Wilson, I think needs to get some consideration. That woman's voice is just unbelievable. When she played that, was it Stairway to Heaven at their induction ceremony? And that's one of the best performances I've ever seen. And I think it brought Robert Plant to tears. It was amazing. Matt Barlow, formerly of Iced Earth, I love him. Chelsea Wolfe, a newer, younger, gothy type singer. She can do it all with her voice. Phenomenal. Klaus Meine, I think Klaus Meine needs to get some love. That guy's phenomenal. Vincent Cavanaugh from Anathema.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with, and I'm sorry, but Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran has always been one of my favorite vocalists. That guy's fucking voice is amazing. And Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga.
That girl can sing it all. She's fucking amazing.
I'll agree with Duran Duran because they do A View to a Kill, and that's one of the greatest songs ever.
Yeah, just his voice is just so
the
good.
James Bond theme, that is a good song.
That's my
Jawbreaker could be like the Judas Priest James Bond song.
that might be my favorite Rob Halford.
Fucking Sentinel.
Yeah.
So
All
we're
right.
up to hear what Pete's got to say. Are we up to Pete now?
We are.
It's
Anyone want to guess who mine is?
Ian Gillan?
Britney Spears.
Mr. Allo called it. So yeah, no surprise to, I would expect, to most people. So Ian Gillan has been my favorite singer for a long, long time. And again, it may not be the Ian Gillan of old anymore, but I still think as like the kind of hard rock grandpa, he still does a really good job. The albums sound great. But man, I mean, this is the guy who sang, Child in Time and Speed King and Highway Star and all those classic early Deep Purple, staples. And how about the Gillan bands, right? Which arguably has some of his best vocals on any album. I mean, Unchained Brain, and I mean, so many great songs, right? That stuff is so heavy. And then Born Again.
Born Again.
Born Again rules. Disturbing
Saw
the Peace.
that tour too. That was amazing.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and then, those 80s Deep Purple records, and he's got some great solo albums too. So I just love him because he does everything. And he's like the voice of my youth. I mean, I still remember being like, 12, 13, 14 years old, sitting in my room at home, cranking those old Deep Purple records at like full volume and sitting on the floor with the speakers on each side of me. And he's like screaming away. And I'm like, this is the best shit ever. Going to see like Black Sabbath, with him on vocals on Born Again. And, half the people were like, why is Ian Gillan singing from Sabbath? And I'm like, who cares? This is amazing. And he's up there like, singing all those Ozzy classics and just like having a blast doing it. I mean, I just think he's one of the coolest guys ever. And I just love his voice. And, his vocals on the Jesus Christ Superstar album from like a million years ago. So, yeah, I mean, he's my guy. He always has been. But I do want to rattle off some honorable mentions here. So I got it. She almost made my list. I love Ann Wilson.
Yeah.
Man, and she still sings amazing. And I remember like one of the highlights of my concert going life in seeing and listening to seeing a singer live where they just like literally brought me to tears and just like chills going up down my spine was when Heart played at Bethel Woods, probably at least a decade ago, maybe longer ago than that. And they sang the Who's Love Reign Over Me from the Quadrophenia album. And man, she nailed it.
No shit.
It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen live. It was absolutely amazing.
I just got chills thinking of that.
Yeah, you can probably, I mean, they played it on that tour, so you can probably go Google it and check it out. It's amazing. Rob Halford is right up there too. Got to mention Halford and Dickinson. I love them both. And then Steve Marriott, the former late singer of Humble Pie, one of the best kind of pure, soulful voices that could kick ass and sing heavy rock. Oh, and Paul Rodgers too, from Bad Company and Free. I love Paul Rodgers. And he still sounds amazing too at 70 years. Right? Another guy. Him and Glenn Hughes must be hanging out somewhere. Sipping Fountain of Youth every
Been drinking that same Fountain of Youth, yep.
right,
Totally.
right. So yeah. So anybody else who didn't get to do honorable mentions want to throw a couple out here?
Just me.
I got one because
Just me. I'm interrupting everybody. No one mentioned Ozzy Osbourne. I think he was pretty good at one time.
he was.
Oh, the sky.
I didn't mention
Ozzy's
the,
one of the greats, but I won't interrupt anymore. Go ahead.
I didn't pick a female vocalist, so I went and grabbed one off one of my favorite female vocalists from the 80s from Belgium, Kate from Acid. I don't know if you ever heard these guys. They were right up there with Old Exciter and Venom for me, just like classic early speed metal. Her vocals I thought were fucking great, so I'm going with Kate from Acid. This self-titled album, I think 83, and the second album, Maniac, were just amazing. Great old classic 80s heavy metal, like really intense, good stuff. So wanted to put her in there too.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that Steve threw Ozzy out there because you know, there's a lot of great singers, but Ozzy is like, he's Ozzy, right?
Iconic. He really is.
Yeah. It was like not meant. It was like, you know, we needed Worrell because he's underground more than Ozzy, of course, but Worrell needs to be mentioned too. And
I mean,
Ozzy, of course. I mean, you just know it's Ozzy's voice. He's like, that voice is just, even if it's not like his top, even as like his newer stuff, he's like, oh, that's Ozzy. You know it's Ozzy as soon as you hear him start to sing.
Yeah.
Now he's hunting ghosts and aliens on his TV show, but you know, he's got to keep busy somehow. You know, Sharon's keeping him busy somehow.
Exactly.
He announces he's coming back 2022.
2022.
Hey, today all over the news, we're getting the vaccine. Maybe by next summer we'll be kind of normal. Let's pray. Keep our fingers
crossed. Let's hope.
Fingers crossed. I say no, but I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to stay in this room forever. I'm like Chris. I'm not coming back out.
Wait, you're the one that said you were retired from concerts.
I have seen my last concert. I retired.
No,
I'm not coming back.
No, you haven't.
You guys will have to pick me up and bring me. I'm too old to drive back at night. I need a ride.
I'll show up and drag you.
All of us now at the concerts. If you don't do it, Steve.
You're coming with me.
I'll be back. I mean, when you gotta almost, when you can't go do it, you just say, well, I've been doing enough. I'm just retiring. It's easier on your whole soul. Then you're like, okay.
Chris is right, though. I mean, you know, who are we going to count on when, you know, you all of a sudden you look over your shoulder and there's that guy who just jumps out of nowhere and starts singing to you, right? No one does it like Steve Keeler.
Especially if it was Michael from Dark Tranquility. I like to sing those live.
Okay.
You've definitely sang in my ear a couple times at concerts, Steve.
Well, when you're drinking and you're with a good band, you want to sing along, right?
You want
to sing to your friends. You know, like the guy from Sonata Arctica, another great singer.
That's why. You know who else good? John
Life is Better Alive.
Uriah Heep and Lucifer's Friend. Very good.
Oh, John Lucifer's
Friend. I remember Linda buying that record at Record City, just buying it because, this is probably like pretty heavy. It's Lucifer's Friend. And she got it home and she says, I don't really like this. I thought it was going to be like more like Iron Maiden or something.
Oh, it's great.
That's back when you bought it from covers and names. Yeah.
It's like old Heap. It fucking rules.
Yeah, it was more like, it wasn't like, because she doesn't really get into the prog stuff or the stuff.
We should mention, I think, Ryan, you were talking about this guy. It was Christopher Rigg, also known as Garm. He's a Norwegian singer who came from the black metal scene. He now is the singer of, he's always been the singer of Ulver, which has become much more new wave and much more 80s sounding. And I think, Ryan, were you going to mention him? I don't want to.
I forgot because my brain is mush. But
Ulver we were both talking about him.
Ulver put out this cool album called Childhood's End, and it's all covers of like 60s psychedelic rock songs. And it's got that iconic photo from the Vietnam War on the front there.
Yeah.
But it's got like the two best songs were I Had Too Much to Dream Last Night and Magic Hollow. But it's full of, like, I'll put the track.
Too much to dream last night.
It's full of these like really like
Doro Pesh covered it. Too Much to Dream last night. The
Doro's
Purple
another one.
Yeah, it's all these like AM radio songs, but it's really cool. So and
that's a great song. The original is great.
It is. The Ulver does good covers. They did a cover of when I saw them. Whatever me and Nick saw them, they did a cover of Frankie Goes to Hollywood song at their encore, and it was fucking awesome. It was incredible. Awesome. It was so good.
Yeah, that guy could sing. And
one of those bands, they could pull it off.
Yeah,
probably a lot of bands couldn't, but they could.
Who would have ever thought that like Frankie Goes to Hollywood and fucking awesome would go in the same sentence, right?
And being covered by a black metal. I know it was when they play. I actually did not know they covered that song. I didn't have the EP it was on, and they come back out and they start going into it. And I'm like, I know this song from the '80s. It was, you know what? My brain's not even working right now. I can't remember the song. But it's easily Googleable or on YouTube. But yeah, it was good. He sounded great. He sounded really, really good singing that stuff.
And the Norwegian Blackish prog folk band Borknagar, their one singer Simon Hesnace calls himself ICS Vortex on stage.
Yeah, I was gonna say we forgot about him, right? Yeah.
Everything he's been in, he's got such a unique, clean vocal. It's so soaring and all over the place. A lot of personality. Another great frontman. Lesser known, doesn't tour the U.S. so much, but
Oh yeah, wow.
you should check him out too. Simon from Borknagar. Wow.
Well, the U.S. primarily knows him from being in Dimmu Borgir.
Right.
That was the biggest mistake that band ever made, was
Oh, when
losing
they
him.
got rid of him, they got rid of me. They got rid of
Biggest
me.
fucking mistake they ever made.
I was just happy he went back to Borknagar.
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I was just happy he went back to Borknagar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Dimmu Borgir playing Roseland. I think Danzig was there too, right, Chris?
Yep, I was there.
Danzig, Dimmu Borgir,
Moonspell.
and someone else. I can't think of who it was, but I remember we were upstairs. So we got the pass. You remember how they had the upstairs in Roseland?
I remember
Yep.
that.
And I was up there hanging out, and like Dimmu was all hanging over the banner watching like Danzig or somebody, and I'm like, that's ICS Vortex. I should just go up and bother him for a second and take a picture, but I didn't get the nerve to do it for some reason.
Talented guy. All right, everybody. So there you go, a nice hour-plus show on our favorite singers of all time. So curious to see what all the viewers think and what. Name some of your 10 favorite singers of all time down in the comments below. Be curious to read what everybody's choosing. And I want to thank Nick and Steve and Chris and Ryan and Lynn.
Lynn was great.
Joining us here tonight on the another must-see TV night here on Monday night with the Hudson Valley Squares. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Make sure you also go visit rockfantasy.com. And if you're in the Hudson Valley, stop into Middletown, New York. Steve, what's the address at the store?
We're in beautiful downtown Middletown at 12 East Main, and pretty soon the trail is going to be open from Goshen. You can take a bike to Middletown and get some beer at Equilibrium and get a couple of records, put in your backpack, and cruise on down the trail.
There you go. Sounds good.
Thanks for buying that Blue Oyster Cult, Skow. I saw when one was missing, and I saw your Instagram post.
That was me. I bought it. I'm the guy.
There you go. Everybody go out and buy the new Blue Oyster Cult if you haven't done it already. So the symbol remains. So that's it for tonight, guys. So we'll see you all next Monday right here on Sea of Tranquility. For Nick, Ryan, Chris, and Steve, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody.